In this episode, Mark and I dive into a couple topics that are really deep. Talking about how did God design us to be as humans? How do we deal with pain and comfort? So take a listen. Let us know what you think. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Chris.
How's it going?
I am well. How is your day going?
Doing pretty good. I thought of an interesting topic for us to cover.
Okay.
It's come up from a couple different sources, and it's talking about struggle slash comfort slash pain slash how all these things tie together.
Yeah.
And what really prompted this is I started reading a book.
There we go. First of the year.
I got some Amazon gift cards for Christmas because people are like, I don't know, he's going to buy a book or something.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. And so I updated my library a little bit with some books that I found interesting. One of them is called The Comfort Crisis.
Wow. Okay.
And it's talking about how as human beings, we've allowed ourselves to get really soft by constantly seeking after comfort.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, there's definitely some biblical themes at play here.
Right.
So let's dive into these.
Yeah. Okay. Comfort. So is comfort a bad thing?
That is, I think, the question. Let's go back to our lens that we look at a lot of things through, which is how did God design humans to be?
Mm-hmm.
Were humans designed to be just constant pursuers of comfort?
Yeah.
My thesis is no.
Okay. Let's go there. Take us there.
Well, I just had my my high school English teacher telling me that's not a thesis.
Not a thesis. It showed up in your brain. Actually.
Let me put it in a thesis statement. Humans were not designed to just be seekers of comfort. And let's go back to defining our terms.
Yeah.
So when we think comfort, what comes to mind?
Salve. Something that's comfortable. So if I have some sort of discomfort, some sort of pain,
okay,
I want that addressed. I want that to be, we could say numbed, avoided, corrected in some way.
Okay. All right. So removal of discomfort, nothing there.
It could be something as small as I'm cold and I want a blanket. So I put a blanket out warm.
Okay.
Could be I'm in great pain, so I need some, medication.
Okay. So far, I'm thinking that is how God designed us to be.
Okay.
Comfortable. And so going back to early creation narrative, what was humankind like in the garden?
Yeah.
There wasn't pain.
Okay, take us there.
But there was work.
There was no pain.
Yeah,
okay.
There's no pain. There was work. It wasn't, I don't think, the level of comfort that a lot of us think of today, which is history, nerd alert, largely based on Greeks.
Okay.
Greeks thought that the highest level of transcendence was not having to work, just being able to think all day long.
Great.
Which is work.
Which is work, by the way.
But they thought manual labor was beneath the upper class and all of that.
So we got this hierarchy of effort that is acceptable or demeaning.
Yeah, the highest form of achievement was not having to work. And I think there's a lot of parallels to that, and especially American culture today, where we're going to work for a long time so that we can retire and not ever have to work again, and just to live in this constant state of lush comfort.
Yeah.
Without any pain, without any suffering. So I think going back to the biblical narrative, creation narrative, absence of pain, definitely, but not absence of work.
So you've said a couple times, no pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just putting my curious hat on here, which actually is always on my head. So what am I saying? Anyway, it never leaves. And I'm trying to replay through the creation narratives and see that in there. And I really just want to go back and read those again to see what's in there, what's not in there about that. So can you tell me more about what you're seeing as far as no pain before the fall, I'm assuming is what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm thinking perfection is what God said. It's good. Adam and Eve are walking in perfect community with God daily, which you see in Genesis 2 and themes of that and patterns of that in Genesis 3. And then Genesis 3 is where it all shifts, right? Where the serpent tries to convince Eve and successfully convinces Eve that God said something different than he said. And then you see the fall as a result of that, where there is separation. Mm-hmm. And then that's where pain is introduced, like especially in the themes of work.
Yes.
Is God talks about thorns and thistles coming out of the ground. That'll be a result of this. Mm-hmm. And that's the first time biblically in the narrative that we see pain, that we see difficulty, that we see struggle, that we see striving. And there's a lot of interpretation and analysis around this. Tim Keller does a great job talking about this in his book, Every Good Endeavor. Talks about our relationship with work. And I think there's going to be a lot of themes of that we uncover through this episode. Okay. But he talks about how before then, like work was easy. It was something that we'd, like if you think about like gardening, you'd throw a couple seeds on the ground and it would have an overabundance of growth because there's nothing to stifle that or stop that or slow that down. Until after the fall, then it was pain and it became difficult and struggle and work to get there. So when I say no pain, that's more of the thing that I'm talking about there.
Okay.
Would highly encourage listeners to read that narrative for themselves, take a look at that. There's so much richness, and obviously that's the lens and the perspective that the biblical authors have throughout.
Yeah,
the Bible.
That encouragement, of course, applies to all of our episodes.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
We encourage each other. We go do that ourselves as well, and review those things. So that the perspective, if I'm hearing you well here, the perspective is that, especially in relationship to work, bearing fruit. You want to put it that way.
Yep.
So working the earth, even childbearing, right? Those things are now painful and difficult and opposed works after the fall.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of what we have today as humans is trying to get back to that. Trying to get back to that spot where there is no pain, there is no discomfort.
Right.
And you talked about some ways that we handle that today, which is numbness, distraction, all of those things that are there. And there's like, we could talk ad nauseum about all of the different ways that those are not healthy.
Right.
Going beyond that and diving into like extreme comfort, like trying to shore up everything on our own.
Okay.
And that continuing my thesis, that's not healthy. That's not how we were designed to be as humans.
Okay.
Comfort, yes, absolutely. In the comforter, capital C.
So there's some unhealthiness when we're trying to control our own comfort and create that for ourselves. In a sense, like I'm going to recreate Eden right here, right? Or if we look going forward, I think that's why many believers long for heaven, which is logical. Right? We long for the place that God's created for us. It is the restoration of Eden, which is very biblical. But we want to make it happen. So that control of that is dangerous, is unhealthy, and instead trusting and relying on the one who created the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, and is recreating it, is restoring it really. That he knows what we need of that in this moment and will provide that for us.
Yeah. I think that's the key is to seek restoration is human. That's what we should be pursuing, and that's what we should be going after. The question is the means in which we're doing it.
So I'm noticing a couple words that you've said kind of jumping out for us to possibly explore here. One of them is comfort, and the other is restoration. And I'm curious if you would like lean into that, do some compare contrast between those two concepts.
Yeah, I think comfort is the end that we are trying to get to. And a lot of us think that it is the means to get to happiness or to get to some desired state.
Okay.
When comfort is it's the end and restoration is the means. And we tend to not even bring restoration into the picture at all. We tend to just comfort, means and end, both together. And where I think this really shows up is in how we deal with pain and how we deal with discomfort. So I like to think of pain as a signal. So we talked about emotions as signals in previous episodes, but pain I think is also a signal for us.
Yes.
Something is not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Then the question becomes, how do we deal with that? What's the means or the end that I'm pursuing in order to alleviate that pain? Mm-hmm. So for you, when you think of pain, how does that come up as a signal for you? Because I know we've talked about this previously.
Yeah. I think looking at the human body, the way God designed our physical bodies is an excellent way of looking at this, because it's something I think we can all relate to. None of us are free of pain in our bodies through our lifetimes. And it shows us exactly what you're talking about, I think. So if I have a pain in my finger, I have a few choices of what I want to do. If I just want to seek comfort for that, I might just go take some Tylenol or, whatever medication I want to in order to address the pain.
Yeah.
And yet, if I don't look at my finger and figure out why I'm feeling that pain, it's likely to end up being a bigger problem for me. So I've just cut my finger. I might bleed out. I might get infected. I mean, there's any number of things that could be going on with my finger. I could have broken my finger. Who knows what it is? Or it could just be a insect bite, in which case it's going to deal with itself, or so to speak. My body will deal with that. But I don't know if I'm just going to take Tylenol. It's just dealing with the pain, not the cause, not the root. There's no restoration that I'm trying to seek for that. And that's just a small example of something happening on my finger.
So on that note, when pain happens, there's a couple different ways that we can deal with it. That's the theme that I heard you talk about there. We can ignore it.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
We can try and solve the symptom of the pain itself, do something about it. We can try and numb it and just make the symptoms better.
Yeah.
Or we can deal with the root cause.
Yep.
So I think what you're talking about here is pain is a symptom of the human condition.
Yeah, current
mm-hmm. human condition. Yeah, good clarification there.
Based on our previous.
Not what God designed it to be, because it was perfect.
Something's out of alignment with that.
Yeah, yeah. And sin, the fall, all of that, us trying to put ourselves in God's place, us trying to seek comfort and all of that stuff. I think all of that is an excellent symptom of the human condition, current human condition. And so we have multiple paths that we can choose to deal with that with. One is ignore it, which I think a lot of people fall into that trap or pursue the wrong thing, like comfort, yes. Try and I'm going to go on an Amazon shopping spree and make myself feel better. Retail therapy.
Yeah.
Or that's where you see other chronic conditions like alcoholism or drugs or
addictions.
All the addictions
tend to be springing out of this desire to numb.
Yeah, numb or salve. Yeah. Kind of just put it on hold, ignore it, but it doesn't deal with, it doesn't even deal with the symptoms.
True. It actually long-term makes symptoms worse. Yeah.
But it doesn't deal with the root cause.
Yeah.
So ignoring pain just for the pursuit of comfort is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Because pain is a gift.
Wow. Say that one again, because it does not feel like that.
No, it doesn't.
Ever, right?
But now it is a gift because it helps reveal something to us that we need to take action on. Mm-hmm. That we can't just ignore it. Going into corporate setting. So let's take it out of the personal setting for a little bit here. Going into the corporate setting, this is what we deal with a lot. When organizations, we come in, they tell us that they have pain. Like, sweet, good. Because as we've talked about in other episodes, in order for us to change our habits, we need to see the pain.
Right.
Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing what we were designed or what our habits have created us to do.
Yeah.
Default thinking versus design thinking. And so pain can be a real gift to us to say something's not right here. I need to take action. So what pain enables us to do is connect our brains in choosing what we want to do differently and where we want to go.
Okay. Being intentional.
Yeah. Being intentional about how we want to solve the problem and make us aware that there is a problem.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, Jesus.
the Bible school answer. Yeah.
But that, I think, is where we need to be pursuing restoration instead of discomfort.
Yeah. I think it's worth taking out of the simplistic as well, which we started to do when we're starting to talk about like ways of numbing and addiction and so on.
Yeah.
These are not cuts on fingers, right?
Sure.
There are deeply hidden causes of pain, especially when you start talking about relational and emotional causes and issues and symptoms. that unlike the cut on my finger, you can't just look at and go, oh, I cut my finger.
Yeah.
That there's causes of pain where we feel the pain, we have to, even if we recognize it as pain, understanding what it is and what the root cause of it is much more challenging than looking at my finger and seeing that I've cut it.
Yeah.
And that process, even that discovery and exploration, we need Jesus in community in order to get there and address what's underneath that with God also.
Yeah.
It's not a simplistic type of problem, though to get us where we've got to, we wanted to talk about it simplistically to get there.
Yeah. To continue the analogy, it's why we go to a doctor when we don't know what's going on with us physically.
Yeah.
Community is a great example to help remind us, and God created community for us to see what's going on, what is that pain leading to, and get outside of ourselves and be able to experience things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And a good community is going to help point back to how do you get to that restoration spot?
Yeah. Which is, I think, another part of God's design is that we can't doctor ourselves entirely.
Right.
Like a mosquito bite, my body's made to address. In most cases, it's made to address. I know there's some outliers on that one. But when we're talking about some of these more challenging things, we're actually made to partner with others in community and with God in order to know what's going on and be able to address it well and become healthy. That's how he's made us.
Yeah. And there is no self-restoration. We are not a DIY project.
Sorry, Home Depot. Also not a sponsor of this episode.
Yeah. We are not a DIY project. Only God can rescue us from the condition that we are in. And so pain is a reminder for us to seek comfort, but not self-comfort, because that's just going to solve the problem temporarily and extremely temporarily.
Yeah.
But only God is the one that can restore. Mm-hmm. So to get back to that spot of what we were designed to be, that takes God. It takes God.
Yeah.
And because of what Jesus has done for us too.
Right.
That's the only restoration that there is. It's not something that we can do in and of ourselves. So pain is a constant reminder to call us back to pursuing God, to pursuing Jesus, to pursuing that relationship that we had at the beginning.
Yeah.
That we chose to break.
Yeah. And in context as well, if we take it back to that lie of the serpent, the way I view what he was lying to Eve about was about the heart of God. Did he really say? Does he really love you? There's kind of that undertone of like, he's not really good, actually. He's holding out on you. And I think that we have the opportunity when we experience pain, because we could look at pain, just like you're describing, we could look at that, though, through the lens of it's God just being mean, saying, see, you need me.
Yeah.
As opposed to there's pain because we're out of alignment with what God intended, and he wants to restore us. He wants to be in the process of restoration with us because he knows that's how we're going to be restored. And that's the loving Father that we know, and not the one that the serpent was trying to portray to Eve.
Yeah. So pain is a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it. And again, another acknowledgement of reality. I think it's worth saying of depth here is that there can be an overwhelming amount of pain also. And so while we have simplified it to say pain is a gift and it's a signal and pay attention to it, if you're in a great deal of pain, you're going to, in a sense, have to prioritize your pain with God in community also, not necessarily addressing all of it all at once. So there are times and places. I guess I'm just trying to be pretty real about this here too. The point is to start addressing it with God in community.
Yeah.
And that's restoration in process right there.
Yeah. Get back to what we're designed to be.
Yeah.
Take action on the pain. Don't just ignore it, numb it, but solve the actual human condition underneath. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great exploration. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
If this episode resonated or you have other topics related to this, email us at info@humanproject.us. We'd love to hear from you, hear feedback. Hey folks, thanks for tuning in today. Behind the mics, you've got myself, Chris Conlin, and Mark Wavle, and our lead editor is Derek Donley. We are a crowdfunded nonprofit. Most of what we do is free because of your generous support. Thank you for joining us in our mission to bring 1 million lives closer to fullness in God's design. To support us financially or to learn more, visit humanproject.us. We'll see you next episode.